probably fun, and hopefully all of you too. And here we are just to talk from the point of view of two directors mainly, but also scriptwriters, and Alex is also producer. And from my point of view, most of directors nowadays here in Spain at least, and knowing a little bit the relationship of Carlos with Lastor Media, his main producers, I would say, is very close, and both of them know a lot of how a movie is produced also. So today we are just trying to discover how a US director, writer, producer that has succeeded in awards mainly in Europe, and the same way but opposite from Europe to US, which is Carlos, approach the projects, and how do they see the market, the audience, how they approach films, every project, how they finance, and all aspects that anyone can imagine. I hope this is a really open conversation between them that will allow all of us to learn and discover new things. So,
doncs passo a resumir breument la intervenció de Xavier i, a part de donar la benvinguda a tots i d'explicar que ahir va veure Golden Exit, l'última pel·lícula d'Àlex, i que ha vist totes les d'en Carlos i li agrada, planteja la sessió d'avui no només des de la perspectiva o des del punt de vista de directors, que tots dos ho són, sinó també de guionistes i també de persones i creadors que participen en un marc de producció més general. És a dir, que avui es planteja parlar de com es fa una pel·li, quins són els aspectes que coneixem i no coneixem sobre com es fa una pel·li, i explicar el cas de la rebuda d'un director, guionista i productor dels Estats Units a Europa, que seria el cas d'Àlex, i el cas invers, que és el cas de Carlos. És a dir, aquests són els plantejaments de la sessió d'avui.
Gràcies, thank you. So, just to try to begin to open the conversation, which is the most difficult thing to begin, I thought about asking you both, how has been the process? This is a general question, I know, then we will come into more detail, I guess, but just asking, how have you produced those last films? Because they are very different. I know, I mean, Tierra Firme has been quite an adventure of being in London, and I don't know anything about the reality of how did you shoot the film, how did you finance, and more or less which is the scheme of the movie, because you have an amazing talent attached from an European, or for at least a Spanish point of view, like, wow, how to manage with such a talent on screen and behind screen and all that stuff. If you can jump in, please.
Are you talking about Golden Exits? Or
Yeah.
Well, as we were talking about the other night when we were having dinner, is that unlike you, there's no system of support or grants or television or anything. So everything I do, it just has to be completely built from the ground up, from $0 every time there's a new movie. There's no real system of the last one did okay, so now I can count on the next one having more support. It's just everything comes from independent money. But with these last couple of movies, the only thing that really matters is finding a way to ask people for what is a responsible amount of money, which is very, very little amount of money, but that I know we can make the movie for. So less than anybody else, really. I mean, truly, I look, the other movies playing here, I know most of them. I can guarantee Golden Exits cost less than probably all but 2 or 3 of them. Okay. And is shot on 16 millimeter and, has a very well-known cast, but none of that matters. The point is I go to people with a very, very low sum and they say, if you can make the movie for that, then by all means. And because I've done it already with other movies, they have no reason to believe I won't. So it's really just having that relationship with private investors, and just that is the producer side. That's me saying, we're going to make a movie. These are the roles. This is the kind of cast I want. this is the budget, we'll draw the line there, we won't spend more, and we'll just make it. Maybe this budget means we only shoot for 2 weeks, or maybe it means we only shoot for 3, but I can do that. But if we have more money, maybe we'll shoot for 5 or 6, but if we don't, we can do it in 2 or 3, because this movie's okay with that. So it's just about determining film by film what you need to do to get it done. That's me being a producer. And then I let other people take it from there, and then I just focus on actually writing a movie that can be made however I've claimed it would be made.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
En realitat no hi ha una manera, és a dir, la meva part com a productor, la part en la que participo de la producció de les meves pel·lícules, donat que no hi ha una manera de que com si l'última ha anat bé, la propera tingui més finançament, sempre parteixo de zero. El que passa és que he arribat a la conclusió de que es tracta de trobar les persones que amb pocs diners et puguin ajudar a fer una pel·lícula que potser aquesta ha costat menys del que havia costat les anteriors, però és una manera d'ajustar-se a dir aquests són els papers, els personatges, el pressupost, i si dona per 2 o 3 setmanes de rodatge s'ha de fer en aquelles setmanes i ja està. M'ajusto una mica a cada producció de pel·lícula, però crec que com a productor és la part en la que jo em llanço a intentar aixecar les meves pel·lícules.
I have a question. So what is the structure with your producers? Because that also happens a lot. I feel in the US you have a bunch of producers sometimes. And how much of them are investors? How much, because you have your producer partners, I think, no? Or is it the same company that you own? A little bit all this structure.
Yeah, I don't own a company. You can just tell, I mean, look at the credits of a movie. Some people are called a producer and have given money. Generally, that would be the executive producer.
It's also to explain.
Yeah. You want me to explain that?
No, just because people don't know how it works sometimes.
Yeah, that was
you know, I know a little, but the people...
It's just, you know, if someone gives the same amount of money, but one person is called something different, it might mean that they gave $5,000 more so that they could be called a producer. Just something extra, or, you know, you use their office, so they get a different title than the person who gave the same amount of money, but you didn't use their office. It's very slippery. But the way it works is that everyone just gets the equal percentage of whatever the movie makes based on how much they put into it. So it's very fair. It's very based on the dollar amount. No one has more power than anybody else unless they put in more money. Like Golden Exits, for some reason, has 5 production companies, but only because I knew I could make it if I asked 5 companies to each give me 20% of the budget. And each one of them said yes, because I was asking each company for very little money. I wasn't saying to one company, give me $1 million, and someone else, give me 100,000. I said to each company, just give me the same amount of money. Everyone gives very little. Even if the movie loses everything, you're really coming in for a portion of something at a very low buy-in. And every one of them said, yeah, for that amount of money, I'd like to start a business relationship with you or continue the relationship.
La pregunta era quina és l'estructura de producció, que si són realment gent que inverteix diners a la pel·lícula o si formen part del sistema de producció, i ell diu que en realitat ell no té una companyia, però que el seu plantejament va ser demanar a 5 productores diferents el 20% de la pel·lícula. I d'aquesta manera, en virtut de la qualitat de diners que donaven, tenien diferents títols de producció. I la recaptació també és molt ajustada al dòlar que es té en taquilla, de manera que és pràctic demanar pocs diners perquè la gent en el fons es planteja bé, per aquest risc estic disposat a col·laborar i a participar a la teva pel·lícula.
But even, you know, I say 5 companies is absurd, but, you know, you sit down to watch most European films and the roster of logos and companies and participants is 3 minutes long before the movie even starts.
We know.
It's funny, but a lot of times actually it's very clear why, you know, because they are even one from the same country but different regions. So it's basically, it happens from televisions and fans, you know, so we'll have these logos, but normally there is like one main production company. You know, that's a little bit the difference.
But then I see that in the movies, you know, sometimes, yeah, you're sitting through credits and logos at the beginning of a foreign European film for 3 minutes, and I just think so many people said yes to this movie. Most I can get to say yes is 4 or 5. And you look at this, 25, 30 people must have read the script, met you, and said, yes, we'll be involved with this. And that I'm just amazed by. I would love to feel that supported.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
That's a
But you say it takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a contrast I wanted to ask.
First, it's just a lot of it depends on each country and everything, and it's not even. It doesn't even work like last movie went well, the next one is gonna be okay. Because first, the policies of every country and every region constantly change depending on the political moment. Obviously, now here in Catalonia it's very hard because of all the situation. We don't have like the subsidies are stopped. Well, they were stopped for a little while. They don't know if it will be money. So it all depends with a lot of factors that they are not just easy to predict, and you never know when it's gonna be. So basically, you apply for it, and then you have a time of waiting. So you're probably like you cannot shoot it in 6 months, but then when they approve it, then you only have like a year or maybe 2 years before you shoot, edit, and put together your cast. So it's all very complex, and at the same time, it's like the subsidy. You know, televisions. They have like these committees sometimes, but it's very opaque at the same time. Sometimes not, but sometimes yes. And like the subsidies in Spain, for example, it's literally a gamble. Like I mean, like I'm not saying it's corrupt. Some people complain, you know, it's like why didn't they give money to this movie or they give to the other movie? I don't think really there is a plan. That's the you know, it's like no, they wanna push this person. It's really random that the persons on the committee they like the kind of cinema you make. You know, it happened, and normally you know, it happens to us with the first and second movie. They were really like the projects. We had the yes from all the televisions, from the subsidies here. Even the last one, we had the maximum points for the European ones. We had there's a European for Development, that's media program. We had the maximum number. And then with all the money already, we only need the Spanish ICA, it's called and we apply. And we get not even close to making the cut. And it's like, how is, you know, like we say a no with the first one, went really well. We get another one, a no. It's like, okay, well, you never get really explanations.
No
you try to
logic.
talk to them, no logic. And with this next one, it was almost a joke because we as I thought, we started shooting another movie. At the beginning, we didn't have a script, so we were just shooting on the weekends and doing the script for every weekend that we were going to shoot. So the movie was a little bit of a chaos, and then it's like, okay, maybe we could make a script, but the subsidies were coming in, so it's like, well, we have to present something. And so basically, we got together with 2 writers. We wrote the script in 2 weeks. Normally, it takes me like 6 months or a year to make a script. I'm very slow with writers. And then we got the subsidies that year. That made absolutely no logic to what you could understand. So it's part of it is you play with a gamble, and so, but I think it's interesting also we need to explore a little bit with this percentage of having, you know, different people and investors. That for me was interesting way of thinking sometimes instead of trying to get one, like small ones. But it's complicated.
Sí, Àlex comentava que el sorprèn quan veu produccions europees que a l'hora de passar els crèdits els crèdits de producció de la pel·lícula de vegades estan 3 minuts sortint logos, i aleshores Carlos l'explicava que en realitat de vegades només hi ha una companyia principal però que hi ha un teixit de producció que implica televisions i que de vegades amb factors locals o generals, és a dir, des del programa mèdia fins a l'ICA, passant per totes les televisions locals, etc., i que la concessió d'aquests ajuts és bastant aleatori, que no depèn ni de l'èxit que hagis tingut amb la pel·lícula anterior ni de vegades dona la impressió que tampoc amb com hagis presentat la pel·lícula ni si la pel·lícula té més o menys perspectives, que en certa manera és com entrar en una loteria.
Great. Yes, this depending of soft money versus private money, I think it's like the main issue between US and Europe. How does this affect both of you? How do you think it affects you in a creative way as directors or creators, let's say, at the time of creating the movie. I mean, from my point of view, it sounds like you have a little bit more freedom because you decide on the deadlines, not decide, but once you've convinced 5 companies, as you would say, not 30, but 5, and according to your own calendar in the way that it's private people, so you talk, and if you agree on something, let's do it, more or less, in a very simple way. It sounds to me like, oh, what a freedom, and instead, to Carlos, like saying, oh, no, it's of money, you have to wait 6 months until the call for proposals before you have, if you don't get this fund, then you can't apply to the other one, so you spend maybe 2 years extra in development of the movie, and how does this affect? And other way, is private money binding you somehow or not at all?
The only thing it binds you to is you can only make movies that are likely to make their money back. And you see a lot of, even in New York, very acclaimed European films that, like I say, have 30 logos. That same exact script, if an American were trying to make it, would get 0 people supporting it. Long, slow, contemplative, very artistic films that here or in South America or other places can get 30 companies. In America, that same movie would get 0. So the problem is maybe you have to wait 3 or 4 years, but then you can make whatever you sort of have gotten permission for. Whereas I can only make things if people are definitely going to hope that they can make their money back. So that's why even at home people get so much more excited about foreign films, because they're so creatively liberated from the fact that they're not only a commercial endeavor, or perhaps not even a commercial endeavor at all. We envy filmmakers who get way more money than we could ever dream to make far less commercial cinema. So I always kind of have to do that, but that's more or less what I would want to be doing anyway. I mean, I don't have a 3-hour-long dialogue-free movie that I would like to make, but if I did, I couldn't make it in America for more than probably $200,000 or $300,000, which would be very, very little. Because even bigger movies like that are commercial, that premiere at big festivals, don't make more money than that. So something, I mean, you see this at big festivals. You see, you know, in New York, movies from Cannes or other festivals that are 2.5 or 3 hours long. Right there, that's something no American movie can be unless it's a giant Hollywood blockbuster that people will see no matter what. None of my friends or peers or people who play at this festival can ever make a 3-hour-long movie. Whereas a lot of them seem to come from other countries. Europe and Asia certainly has no shortage of those films that reach us. And no one I know could ever make one, because no one will give you money for a 200-page script that will be over 3 hours long. So you just have to sort of respect that, which means you'll never see an American independent 3-hour movie that was made for more than peanuts.
Diríem, dona la impressió, la pregunta de Xavi era com afecta el tipus de cinema, el rodatge o el plantejament creatiu, el tipus de finançament que s'obté. Es diria que pel model d'Àlex això significa més llibertat, perquè naturalment haver de parlar amb 5 i no amb 35 companyies fa les coses més fàcils, però i també, com explicava Carles, que amb el diner públic, amb subvencions, etc., has d'esperar que tot faci el seu curs i va tot mal endavant. I aleshores Àlex diu que bàsicament el model de producció per les seves pel·lícules i el model de producció del tipus de cinema és que volen, és a dir, que no es poden fer pel·lícules que no recuperin els diners que han costat. El sorprèn especialment, igual que el sorprèn a la generació de cineastes als que pertany, que aquí algú estigui disposat, 30 o 10 companyies, estiguin disposades a finançar un guió de 200 pàgines i 3 hores de duració. És a dir, per més que ell volgués fer una pel·lícula amb llargs primers plans o una pel·lícula de les que ens té acostumades la producció europea o asiàtica, no trobaria qui li pagués.
I want to say that maybe I feel that in the US there is an exception. I feel sometimes to make these kind of movies, that has to do with casting, no? And that changes a little bit. I feel like a movie like Mix Good Off, you know, if you have Michelle Williams, you can make Mix Good Off. That obviously is not a movie, you know, that's going to be very commercial, and that will bring audiences too, maybe. And I feel that's one of the big differences, how cast is relevant for a movie or not at all. We don't have this option here sometimes. And at the same time, I just want to say, like, not every filmmaker is allowed to, like Spain, for example, is not a good place to make certain kind of movies, like you were saying, because there's only a few authors that they will allow to do, even like, you know, the first person you think in Catalonia is Albert Serra. If you see his first movie, you know, it's made with nothing. You know, it's literally like with a VH camera and not VH. Well, the first one is VH, but nobody, not many people saw it. But the second one, and you had to make it for peanuts, really. And it's only maybe after 2 or 3 movies that then you're kind of an author. But even like it's very complex. Even people who's been, you know, like get in, you know, well, he doesn't get the money that he will deserve it, and he makes movies by peanuts. That's also, I like this expression, but at the same time, I think I always work with investors too in all the movies, because the budgets never, for some reason or some other, we had a bunch of logos, but the last one that we needed to make the budget wasn't in. So we have, in all the movies I've made, we always had some kind of private investor. And it's a pressure, you know, it's true. It's like you feel your producers a little bit more eager. And with at least here, if you make a movie under 1 million in Spain, you're fine. You know, you can do whatever you want. If you make a movie over 1 million, you have your producers over you first, because the subsidies you want to apply are different. So they are supposed to be more commercial. And then all the play and game is like, no, here is serious. You have to make certain amount of box office. If not, they don't get the points to make the new movie. So France is a special case, and maybe Germany, but the rest of the movies in Europe, they always demand a little. And Portugal, it used to be, but they just changed. So it's not just for young filmmakers. Sometimes it's really hard, and especially like filmmakers in Spain who are doing, you know, more difficult movies here, they have a really hard time. It's not my case, but.
Well, also, like, certainly, you know, this is when filmmakers get, what you're saying, more money that younger filmmakers don't have, and therefore more freedom, that's generally when their movies get worse. So it doesn't matter, really, but, you know, that's when you see these bloated movies that can only be made by someone who can do whatever they want and is out of ideas because their best movies were made 15 years ago, but they can still get the money. It's the same in America, but, you know, we see so many acclaimed films in America that are foreign filmmakers, and they're just not good. I mean, this person made great movies 15, 20 years ago, and now they're still supported, and their movies have no new ideas. And obviously that money should be given to younger people, but it's not. Or it should be given to people that aren't getting it, but it's not either. It's just given to the most famous, supportable people who make the biggest, most expensive movies that just don't work as well as when they were making their earlier, smaller movies. So it goes without saying that wealth should be distributed evenly.
Carles comenta que en realitat també a l'hora de recaptar els diners necessaris per fer una pel·lícula i comptar el càsting, hi ha moments en què això realment és important. I en el nostre cas, doncs, cita el cas d'Albert Serra, que les primeres pel·lícules les va fer amb 4 calés, o Guerin, i que són directors que produeixen a molt baix cost, diguem, però que entrarien dintre de la categoria d'una autoria, i això ja és un altre apartat. També comenta que sempre ha hagut de treballar en certa manera amb inversors privats i que és una pressió sempre que el teu pressupost pugi per damunt del milió d'euros, naturalment, perquè aleshores la insistència en que sigui comercial encara és més alta. I aleshores Àlex afegeix que en realitat ara la manera de donar que es donen grans pressupostos a directors consagrats, diguem, però que feien grans pel·lícules fa 30 anys o fa 20 anys, no ara, i que precisament els que tenen més diners potser són els que tenen menys idees però més garanties comercials, i que aquests diners que haurien d'arribar als més joves o als que tenen més idees no hi arriben.
Very interesting. Carlos, I would like if you can develop a little bit your experience, because both 2,000 kilometers plus Tierra Firme, which I don't know the title in English, sorry.
Anchor and Hope.
Anchor Hope. That's it. Thanks. I didn't remember because you changed so many times the title that it's hard to remember.
We can talk about how when it gets over 1.5 million, it gets more
You get
complicated and more pressure.
Yeah.
That's part of the title.
That's a very funny story about the
You
title.
don't get to choose your title in your own country.
Okay.
That's what happens.
That's another moderating table or something.
My producers. I love them.
Because 10,000 kilometers was a story. I mean, the story in the movie happened between Europe and US, and Anchor and Hope happens with European characters in London. So it's both Anglo-Saxon world. So I guess that helped having this kind of investors you talked about. First question, are the investors from US coming from La Panda? In that case, I'm very going into the detail, but I think it's good to understand because usually filmmakers hear the word like investors and it sounds like very attractive and scary thing because it's something like we don't understand very much.
Yeah, the first one was actually a Spanish person in Los Angeles that had because it was very cheap money, it was really made very, very little money, 10,000 kilometers. Still was a lot much more than working. I remember when Eliza made It Felt Like Love, we were shooting there, and it was a movie made by $30,000, dollars at the time. I was like, that's impossible to happen in Spain almost, because if you want to make a movie official that exists, so you can apply to things afterwards, there's a lot of bureaucracy in it that just you spend that money on the bureaucracy. It's just a very strange, so you have to make always a movie over 100,000. Financing a movie under 150,000, 200,000 is impossible. It doesn't exist. You have to pay it on your own pocket. So it's a crazy system in some ways.
Here in Spain.
Here in Spain, maybe in Galicia. Well, in Galicia they have their own a little bit of money to do that kind of movies, but here it's like you will never find even the investor. So it's sometimes if you want to make a small movie, you have to end up inflating it because of how the structure works. It's very the bureaucracy. But so we have the investors. One was a Spanish person in Los Angeles. The second one was another who had much more money, but it always helps it's just a gap, So you have the movie mostly financed, so then you have this gap to be able to shoot it with everything, and so then somebody comes in, and it's kind of a mixed system. It doesn't happen that often, but it's a way of, so they recover, the first, so because the rest of the movie is soft money, it's a little bit easier to try to find it, but clearly it's like it's because we are there in some ways that it happened. It's not because the movie were Anglo-Saxon, almost like it felt because they liked the project, and actually part of it I felt like with the last investor is just a guy with a lot of money that wants to put money in a movie and and be there and just hang out. He wasn't expecting really to get a lot of money out of it. And actually it would have been for us much more easier to make this movie, in Spain or Barcelona. It wasn't an idea of let's make a movie in English and make it. So actually it was like, oh, that's gonna be hard and it's gonna be more difficult. But we just couldn't find a place that was better for telling, the story and the conflict that we wanted to explore, and also, the world that Natalia, the actress, lives in.
Wow.
Si el fet que les pel·lícules de Carlos es desenvolupin en un món anglosaxó va ajudar, o com van arribar els diners a través dels inversors, i aleshores la resposta és que hi havia un contacte espanyol a Los Angeles, tenien un contacte espanyol a Los Angeles, i realment allà és una lliga diferent. És a dir, que el problema és que a través de la burocràcia gastes molts diners i a més hi ha un mínim que si no hi arribes sembla que hagis d'inflar el pressupost per poder ser tingut en compte, per la qual cosa alguns naturalment estan només esperant que els arribi, que recuperin els diners, però allà realment vam trobar la manera de produir-la i fins i tot l'últim inversor que va entrar en el projecte donava la impressió que era senzillament perquè li havia agradat la pel·lícula i perquè volia ser-hi. No era la intenció, però ens va semblar que allà era el lloc on millor podíem explicar la història i on també el conflicte de Natàlia s'expressaria millor.
Thank you. I have two questions.
I'll ask him a question. What about casting? How does the casting, and because it's always like I feel like making a movie in America, a lot of it has the challenge with the casting. And how do you deal with the agencies as producing? Because in the US, different from here, we don't have like, only actors have managers, but we don't have agencies, so you don't have to deal with all this work. Basically, it's like mostly 5 big agencies that control most of the kind of bankable actors. So the ones that can get you, if you get them on board, you can go a financier and kind of convince them to give you money. A lot of it has to do with the actors, something that is not as necessary here.
Well, first of all, very, 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 very few actors can actually bring in any good amount of money. There's a lot that can help you get a couple $100,000, and then I would say fewer than 30 that could get you over $1 million or $2 million. So it's very difficult to play that game. So none of the movies I've made with known actors have had that. They always sort of had the money, or the only thing I said was, we just want good actors, and we're just going to pay the minimum. The SAG, union minimum, and then there's nothing to negotiate. So then if they want to work with me or be in the movie, then they're in. And there's nothing anyone can negotiate for, because we're only giving them what we can. But it's what they've done, to answer your question, is just sort of use themselves to replace the old studio system of the 30s and 40s, where, like you say, there's 5 big companies. Well, there used to be 5 big studios. And they would just say, our stars are powerful, our stars are famous. If you want to work with our stars, you have to make our kinds of movies. And then they would push stars who weren't very talented, and then they would keep stars well past their prime, making movies that were like their best kinds of movies. And now agencies have just done that same thing. They've said, we can put you in touch with the money if you work with one of these actors. And you'll say, well, those are bad actors. No one wants to work with them. They say, but we have so many investors that love them. So if you put them in your movie, you'll get your money. And then you see a lot of these actors in expensive, bad movies. Because someone says yes.
Like really good indie movies that will say, oh, that would be like really good, but then you see some cast, it's like, why is it there? And then you check out the director and the agency, it's like, oh, that's why this actor.
It's all the same, yeah. It's all insider trading or, studio system monopolies. It's all stacking the deck so that it's never an honest thing. But from the movies I made, they're just actors I got to meet and really wanted to work with. But it's a very complicated and shifty system that is fortunately in the process of collapsing, and will certainly have collapsed in the next 2 or 3 years. Oh, certainly.
Already?
Wow. Yeah. No, just the idea that they can package movies with their own clients and then sell these movies to investors. So therefore you can get expensive independent movies, $3, $4, $5 million movies, with actors that were in Hollywood movies 10 years ago. And now those movies have just completely stopped making money. Everyone who's invested in them has lost all of their money for the last 5 years. And there's just no logic to it. So the fact that they claimed, there's a logic to it. If you put this actor in your movie, you'll make a lot of money. Everyone knows now that that's not true, and it's starting to go away, and certainly will not exist in a couple of years.
Sí. La pregunta era si Sí, quin és realment el desafiament d'haver de tractar amb les agències de càsting a l'hora de poder tractar de poder contractar i tenir en la pel·lícula els actors desitjats.
Sí, no són de càsting, són les agències que representen els actors i directors i escriptors.
Sí, agències, sí.
Sí, perquè els càstings són una altra cosa.
No, és a dir, sí. A l'hora de fer el càsting i de buscar els actors en aquestes agències d'actors. Aleshores, doncs, la resposta d'Àlex és que en realitat pocs són els actors que poden posar molts diners en una producció. Són molt pocs els que realment puguin aportar prou calés com per partir d'aquests diners, per tant no sembla una bona manera d'abordar el càsting d'una pel·lícula, perquè ell, a més, el seu plantejament és buscar bons actors i proposar-los directament sabent que els hi pagarà el mínim sindical i que no es pot negociar més enllà d'aquí perquè no. Aleshores, també explica que el sistema d'estudis dels anys 40 i d'aquells anys de Hollywood ha canviat moltes coses i en aquest sentit les estrelles són molt més poderoses del que eren, els actors i actrius són més poderosos i les agències l'única cosa que fan és en un moment donat proposar-te, ajudar-te a buscar els diners si contractes determinats actors. Però, esclar, ningú vol aquests actors i aquests actors, la fórmula d'agafar actors que eren d'èxit fa 10 anys, tothom sap que ja no va bé, que d'aquí 2 anys s'haurà acabat del tot i que aquest sistema està efectivament col·lapsant. Aleshores, crec que era Xavi que deia que hi ha males pel·lícules indie que acabes entenent perquè hi ha determinats actors en aquella pel·lícula quan veus que ha donat diners i has dit, per això aquesta persona està en aquesta producció.
Bueno, deia el Carles, no he dit res. I keep this idea of agencies collapsing. It's very interesting.
I understand the kind of movies they
of course. And does everyone know a little bit the system of what he talked about, the talent agencies in US and this?
There's no way anybody knows what we're talking about.
No, a little bit, just an idea. If everyone knows, or anyone wants to raise his hand and say, "What are you talking about?"
Tothom entén el sistema d'agències d'actors i de talents del que estàvem parlant ara mateix o si algú vol preguntar alguna cosa? I Àlex deia que en realitat ningú no entén aquest sistema.
The easiest way to describe it is imagine that there was a huge celebrity here, a very, very famous Spanish actor who no one in America had heard of. And someone said to me, if you put him in your movie, some Spanish company will give you $3 million. And I would say, but I don't know who this person is, and I don't know if they're very talented. And someone would say, but you'll get all of your money if this Spanish actor has even a small role in the movie. And then the only thing you're giving up is the Spanish rights. This company will and then your movie will just be this expensive movie that has this one actor in it that comes from nowhere. That's how it works, basically, except instead of a country saying that, it's an agency. And instead of someone who's very famous here who no one in America has heard of, it's someone who everyone in America has sort of heard of, but nobody really cares about. And they're still telling you, if you put this person in your movie, you will get all this money.
Absolutely. Thanks for the explanation. It was brilliant.
Per exemple, es pot donar el cas que aquí a Espanya hi hagi una gran celebritat i algú em digui si surt aquest actor o aquesta actriu a la teva pel·lícula hi posarem tants diners. I algú conegut, algú que tingui projecció internacional. Però també pot passar que et diguin si surt aquest altre, qui ningú coneix i que realment no interessa a ningú, encara hi posarem més calés. Aleshores, només a canvi de renunciar als drets per a Espanya de la pel·lícula. De manera que hi ha maneres d'arribar que els actors i que els càstings siguin d'una manera o d'una altra i tenen a veure amb el finançament, naturalment.
So, the actors approach you sometimes, or do you approach them sometimes? How do you work, and do you have any advice for people who wants to approach actors? If you have any technique, I remember
Secret.
when what's her name? Oh fuck! She was telling me she did A Girl Walks Home Alone. Lily, Army Poor, yeah, and she was telling how when she was trying to cast Jim Carrey, a little bit that kind of thing, but he basically make a T-shirt with his face and blah blah blah, and she's just like, I guess every director has its way to seduce its actors. Do you have any?
Well, similar to what you said the other night when you said that the actress in your last 2 movies is an old friend of yours. I mean, I didn't have that, but I had friends that made my first couple of movies. And then the first time I approached well-known actors, it was just very ignorant. So I had no T-shirt. But ever since then, I've just, now there's just enough movies made with well-known people that someone can look at it and say, an actor I like has clearly done good work in your movie. So I can just sort of start the conversation halfway through rather than saying, let me introduce myself. You don't know anything about me, but I made this crazy shirt to impress you. Now they say, oh, I saw your movie and I know one of the actors in it and they're really good in it. So maybe if I made something with you, I'd be good in it as well. I also only really have the most success with actors because generally there's one actor in the movie already, and then other actors really just want to work with them more than they want to work with me. This has happened on my last 3 and now the new movie we're making, where there's just one person who's there first, and then the movie becomes their movie more than it's my movie.
Was Moss first?
Well, so for Listen Up, Philip, Jason Schwartzman, I mean, I didn't know him. I got to him organically with I never met him.
Through a friend?
No, just through an agency. And then we sat down and he wanted to do it. And then everybody who wanted to be in that movie wanted to be in a Jason Schwartzman movie because I never made anything like that. So it became very easy. And then on Queen of Earth, which played yesterday, Elizabeth Moss, who was in Listen Up, Philip, was the first person involved with that. So every actor we approached wanted to work with her more than they wanted to work with me. So actors have all the power. They just don't always have a lot of money power. They just attract other actors.
It happens to us totally. Like with this one, we had Natalia, so then we brought Una in, and then Una brought her mother, so it was a little bit. A lot of actors bring 2 actors. Yes.
La pregunta és respecte de si com tria ell o com s'aproxima als actors amb els que vol treballar i si té alguna tècnica per convèncer-los. Comentava el cas d'una amiga que volia treballar amb Jim Carrey i es va fer una samarreta amb la cara de Jim Carrey per anar-ho explicant i entrar-hi així. I Àlex diu, tu em deies que en les teves darreres pel·lícules intervenen i estan els teus amics com a actors. En les meves primeres pel·lícules els actors eren amics meus. És a dir, que quan vaig començar a treballar amb actors que ja tinguessin un cert reconeixement, jo no sabia gaire res. I al contrari, ara el que em passa en aquestes últimes pel·lícules és que quan hi vaig ja no és allò de presentar-me com un desconegut, sinó com diuen, sí, algú m'ha dit que aquesta pel·lícula teva estava molt bé. I aleshores també a partir de que si un actor amb pes i amb reconeixement hi entra, els altres volen venir darrere. És a dir, que els actors tenen aquest poder també. I Carles explica el cas de la seva pel·lícula on va ser Ona Chaplin qui va portar la seva mare i a partir d'aquí també va crear un grup d'actors.
Yeah, I think this explanation was very interesting. I'm going to spend 2 minutes to explain exactly an experience I had, which was collapsing a US talent shooting in Europe, shooting in Spain, which was like 10 years ago. We co-produced a film called Savage Grace, starring Julianne Moore, coming from killer films with big names. So we decided to do all the shooting here. I was the minority co-producer. But when we decided to shoot all the movie in Spain, so most of the characters became like, okay, they're going to be Spanish cast because we're shooting here. It's like simple decision from producers. only saying Julianne Moore is starring, there were no questions. It was exactly this, I mean, in this level. And imagine with the difference of a star in worldwide coming to Spain. All actors who were like almost impossible to approach were calling, just asking to be in the movie somehow. So it was in a desperate way. In the opposite, that didn't attract any money, but only soft money because it was a very tough script. So at the end, the soft money is always claiming also like, if it's not soft money, meaning, soft money came in because of subsidies, but really, I think the only TV that we pre-sold was a Catalan TV that we pre-sold, thanks that we were shooting all the film in Catalonia. So that was the value we were seeing. The characters were supposed to take place here. So the attractive of an actor, it's amazing. And even when it's even stronger when you bring a US well-known talent that we know here because we are attracted a lot by this US star system. It becomes even more attractive for European talent, I think, in all fields, talent and companies, I would say.
It's funny though, like always they are not the same people who are, that's always, I don't know exactly how it works, but how people are the talent that attracts some kind of attention or in America and then the rest of the world, it changes in every country. That's always thing very funny. It's like with bands.
Xavier explicava que té l'experiència fa 10 anys de venir aquí amb una producció americana protagonitzada per Julianne Moore en un moment en què Julianne Moore estava en un moment alt de la seva carrera i que va ser una decisió dels productors de dir bé, doncs si estem a Espanya buscarem un repartiment espanyol i només de dir que Julianne Moore era la protagonista, no només no hi havia cap problema, se'ns obrien totes les portes, els actors inaccessibles de cop es posaven en contacte amb nosaltres i ens deien volem sèrie sigui com sigui i soft money en vam tenir molt poc perquè pràcticament van ser les prevendes a TV3 però evidentment tenim tots molt aquesta idea subjugada de l'estar sistema americà i obre portes, esclar. Aleshores Carles deia que també depèn que hi ha casos també que en molts països canvia.
Absolutely. So,
¿Teniu preguntes, algú?
Sí. Encara no? Not yet. Okay, so new question. At the very beginning, you were talking about the audience reception for European and Asian movies that are more creative because of their length, because they have that freedom, that like the audience in US, it's some kind of audience, I understand, is really eager for this kind of movies. So I wanted to ask both of you, how do you feel that your films are traveling from Europe to US or from US to Europe? And a very concrete question, do you see Europe as a whole and unique market, or do you really understand that it's really divided and it really depends from country to country? How do you both feel that?
Well, I just know that some of my movies have been released in some countries. So obviously, I've had 3 movies in a row released theatrically and on DVD in France, but nowhere else. Never gotten a release in Italy, Germany, Spain. For some reason, this just happens country by country. So it's as different as the fact that in America, we see a lot of French films, some Italian films, fewer Spanish films. It just gets less and less. So there's just exchanges between cultures for whatever reason that predate any of us. For some reason, these were the rules that were set up in the 50s of how movies would travel. And those rules are still stuck to. I mean, we see a lot of Japanese movies in America and very few Taiwanese movies and very few Filipino movies, and it has always been that way. And things are very stuck. So there's no one market, but there seems to be 2 models. There's either an entirely Hollywood-derived system, which includes independent of Hollywood, and then there's, everything else that has different rules. Because few other countries have entirely private. Do any other countries have entirely private movie industries where there is no such thing as public money?
I guess in Calcutta, I guess.
Maybe, yeah, that's private. That makes sense that the Indian film industry would also be, but
Like, depends on the region, but just the Bollywood.
Bollywood,
Other sectors are public. But
but I feel like Japan might have also. I mean, Japanese film industry might have been private, like.
Back in the day.
Yeah, like Toho is not
Toho.
that's a private company made for profit.
Yeah.
And, you know, Shaw Brothers movies coming out of Hong Kong, that was all private too. But I feel like now these countries all developed funds. So, I know that they're all different, but there really is only two ways. There's privately making movies for money, and then there's the idea of countries nurturing art as a public forum that needs to be supported in some form. And yeah, my movie's just, you know, it's great to have festivals. That's the release of the movie in most countries. That's the best you can hope for, is 3 or 4 screenings at festivals and hope that people find it. And then 2 years later, when another movie comes through, you hope that the same people come back for your next movie. So they don't really travel that much, which is fine, because a lot of movies don't travel to me either. I see them once a year at a film festival in New York, and then they barely get released, if at all.
Sí, la pregunta era com en tots dos casos les seves pel·lícules s'han vist allà i s'han vist aquí respectivament, i que la pregunta era com viatgen els vostres films, i Àlex contesta que la seva experiència és que algunes de les seves pel·lícules s'han estrenat a alguns països, que a França fins i tot hi ha hagut un DVD d'una de les seves pel·lícules, però que realment té la impressió de que no és un mercat únic, perquè, per exemple, viceversa, a Amèrica veuen forces pel·lícules, algunes pel·lícules franceses, menys pel·lícules italianes i encara menys espanyoles. Però respecte a com viatgen això a les pel·lícules, potser ens hauríem de remuntar als rols de distribució i de viatge de les pel·lícules dels anys 50, però que bàsicament hi ha dos models, és a dir, el model de Hollywood i el model independent, que també pertany a Hollywood, o el model que seria el model privat, i un model públic en què els estats reconeguin l'art com un bé públic. I jo, per exemple, comentava Carlos el sistema de Bollywood en relació, Bollywood seria privat, en relació a les altres cinematografies índies que serien ja més relacionades amb els estats. I aleshores Àlex afegeix també que, de fet, els festivals són la manera que té de poder presentar les seves pel·lícules amb l'esperança de que la gent les vegi, les localitzi i després les torni a buscar en altres festivals, perquè realment no té una percepció de que hi hagi un mercat que es pugui abordar.
Però farem català perquè així m'explicaré millor. Hi ha totes aquestes complicacions que parleu, no, per trobar finançament. M'interessa molt com deixeu o eviteu que us afectin a les vostres motivacions, us frustreu, les vostres frustracions, i no només en aquesta part tan personal, sinó també en la part personal de narrativa i de guió. No? Com totes aquestes complicacions afecten el guió, com el transformen, com després podeu veure el resultat i comparar-ho amb l'inici.
No, I feel it all depends. You always try to write movies that you know you can make. I don't like to write movies just for the sake of writing. I don't consider myself, I don't enjoy it personally. There's people who have this kind of will and they love to do it, but so I think that's part of it, and I think it always changes, but it depends on, I guess, on your approach to it. I mean, like, there's something that you find difficulties, and that makes you, maybe you have to change something because you cannot get anything, some part, or you get, a typical thing, you get like 1 week less of shooting, and that's, that happens, and then last 2 months before production, boom, a week gets cut. So obviously you have to cut the script, then you have to rethink, but I think we should always write scripts of knowing that we're gonna have to cut them at some moment, but it forces you to compress, you know, to try. I think it's always been, movies for me are an organic process, you know. It's not that I have this kind of storyboard of everything. To me, it's just a lot of it has to do with get a bunch of people, you know, and trying to think about something in a space, in time. How do you deal with space? How do you deal with time? And people and interactions, you know. So it's basically you always try to, what can I do better, you know. And I feel no.
En realitat es tracta d'escriure les pel·lícules que t'agraden, és a dir, la motivació aquesta ja la tens d'entrada i saps que sempre canviaran, però la perspectiva des de la que l'escrius és realment el teu procés. Saps que després intervindran 1000 coses, que a les pel·lícules els hi passen moltes coses i hi participa molta gent, són un procés orgànic, però escrivint-les en el procés del guió també ja n'ets conscient.
I agree. The only thing to do is only work on things that can get made pretty realistically. But also, you know, for me, just making anything comes from the fact that I just like and would always rather be watching movies. So my life of watching movies, either in repertory theaters like your Cinematheque here, or at home, older films, classic films, the only thing I know is that some things stand the test of time and some things don't. And therefore, when I'm working or writing or thinking of a movie that has very little to do with what is currently working in the marketplace, but that I feel strongly about, I just have to believe that in 10, 20, 30 years, it will be still playing at a Cinematheque somewhere, and these other movies won't. And the only reason I believe that is because the only reason I'm making movies is because I would also rather be sitting in a Cinematheque watching movies than doing anything else. So the only thing I know of how to write is movies inspired by that kind of film. Because that's everything to me. That's how I learned to love movies. So I have to believe working inspired by movies that have lasted forever instead of working inspired by successful movies from last year means that your movies are well suited to last a long time. And that keeps me going.
No, I totally agree with that, and that's, I think, sometimes a little bit pretentious myself when you think about it. Oh, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna stay in the time and everything. It's gonna be relevant, and it's asking yourself while in the process. It's interesting, you know. It's like, are you not, trying to fight the seduction of festivals or box office? You know, it's like, oh, but at the same time, it's like. It's just so, movies are something so much about the present, about what you are doing now, that trying to think if it's gonna, it's such a crazy way of thinking sometimes, I feel.
Sí. Com deia Carlos, a mi també m'agradaria pensar que les pel·lícules que em plantejo me les plantejo també des del punt de vista realistes, és a dir, que les podré veure. I jo miro moltes pel·lícules, és a dir, vaig a cinemes de repertori, a filmoteca, si puc, a veure cinema clàssic, i veig que algunes aguanten el temps i les altres no. Però realment, quan escric, no és que ho tingui en compte, és a dir, espero que d'aquí a 100 o 150 anys les pel·lícules els hi puguin interessar a algú, però en realitat sí és veritat que m'interessaria més pensar que algun dia seran interessants que no pas que seran la bomba d'un any. Aleshores, Carles explica que de vegades quan es planteja si les seves pel·lícules aguantaran i què passarà amb elles se sent una mica pretensiós, però que a la vegada sap perfectament, és conscient que les pel·lis són del present i són del present i es fan en el present i resulta estrany projectar-les d'aquesta manera.
Okay, we have more questions. Great.
Hi, thanks for being here today. I'd like to ask you 2 questions, if I may, both of you, about the soundtrack. When are you hiring a music composer or choosing? What's important to you? And the second one is, can you give some tips or advices for music composers to get in touch with directors or film industry? Thank you very much.
Doble i va dirigida a cadascun d'ells, és a dir, i és relativa a la banda sonora de les pel·lícules, i la pregunta és què trien els directors, què trieu vosaltres quan trieu, què voleu, què espereu d'un músic que hagi de fer la música de la vostra pel·lícula, i per altra banda si teniu algun consell pels compositors respecte al seu treball en el cinema.
It's a little strange to talk about it because I don't use much score actually. In the first movie there's non-score. There's a lot of music, but to me it's hard to, and I try it every time, but once I start making the movie, always get, most of the time gets the movie repulses it, you know. It's all, I feel almost like I have to make the music. I'm trying to make next time the music before I shoot somehow, so when I'm editing I already have it. And but I think it depends. In the last one, and I made one movie for, you know, for TV that was, we use more score, although I will have done it differently now. He's a great composer, Pascal Gagne, and we wanted to co-produce. Part of it was we wanted to co-produce with the Basque Country, and I've seen El Sol del Membrillo, Victor Erice's movie, and I love this soundtrack. So it was like, oh, I would love to work with him. So that was a little bit part of it. But a lot of it has to do with, and in the last one we had a very little score, and to me sometimes you make connections of things. Obviously it helps with the people I work in short films. So I have a couple of composer friends. I work with them doing short films, and so I try to keep in contact. I haven't used them again, but I always keep in contact with them, and it's like, oh, and just keep in touch. And the other thing is, with this last one, it was a friend who was a sound artist, and I actually asked her to make this because she had this and she's an electronic music musician. So she basically makes a lot of these like underwater recordings that are super interesting that I wanted to use, you know, and it's like, oh, that's perfect, the kind of work she does. So we can try to be very creative with that. At the end, everything we try, almost anything stay there, and I basically end up making her play the piano and improvising, and she doesn't know how to play the piano. And it was like, and we basically tried to find a very old, out of tune piano that she could play, and you know, and she could just improvise over it a little bit. But at the end, it was just a process of researching. This is not working. But I think that for me the most important is that they understand the movie, that they understand the emotion, that they understand what you are doing, and if so we just keep moving forward to something that is nothing what she normally does.
En realitat no faig servir massa. De vegades tinc la sensació, fins i tot en el muntatge, de que hi ha parts de la pel·li que la rebutgen, la música, tot i que, per exemple, vaig fer una producció per televisió en què també hi participava la televisió del País Basc i teníem molt present El Sol del Membrillo de Víctor Erice, però sí, estic en contacte amb gent que ha fet música per curts i els tinc molt presents, i després tinc molt present també un artista de sons que fa música electrònica, música sota aigua, i m'agrada molt i sempre penso que en algun moment treballarem.
No, vam treballar, l'última pel·lícula la vam fer amb aquesta amiga que és artista sonora i també fa música electrònica, llavors vam fer la música amb ella.
Doncs això, i el que més m'interessa quan em poso en contacte amb un músic o amb algú que faci música, naturalment és que entengui la pel·li, que entengui l'emoció i que entengui també el que pretenc fer.
For me, the composer of my last 3 movies, is just a partner now, and I actually hadn't met him when he did the score for the first movie we did together. I met him for the first time at the premiere, but he had been friends for a very long time and had done 4 or 5 movies for other friends of mine. And so the advice then is just, you know, he made his name on these people's first and second movies. And then a couple years later, he was their guy, and then they recommended him to me, and now I couldn't work without him. And now he's a partner who reads the script very early and is pitching ideas 6 months before we're making the movie. And all he did to sort of establish himself was find 3 or 4 of his friends who were making movies and volunteer his services. And then 5 years later, we're hiring him sight unseen. And then 5 years after that, he's a very essential part of the process. So in addition to everything you say just about, you know, being a creative partner, it's just coming organically up through learning how to do what you're doing. It's not determining early on that you're qualified to be hired on something big, but just saying, much like everyone else, I want to do something small to just try and learn. So my composer came up like that. He did scores for very, very inexpensive 65-minute movies, and over the years just got better and better at what he does, and now that's all he does. Now he makes lots of money, he does TV shows, and now I pay him the least of every job he does. Instead of previously when we were the only people actually giving him money. Now he's done so well, it's just, you know, the only reason he's there is because he just kind of took it one tiny step at a time rather than saying 5 years ago, I should do an entire TV series. But then eventually a TV series came to him and said, you should do the entire thing. And now I'm the low-paying job, and the TV series is how he bought a house.
En realitat treballo amb el compositor amb el que treballo ha esdevingut un soci en les 3 darreres pel·lícules i també ha fet pel·lícules de 4 o 5 amics meus. Ell intervé 5 anys, o sigui, 5 anys després del procés. Ell va començar fent cosetes petites, però a poc realment ara dec ser jo el que el pago menys de tots els que el contracten, i està fent una sèrie de televisió amb la que s'està fent una casa. És a dir, que ell participa des del primer moment ajustant idees, etc.
Okay, we had another question here. Pepe, el micrófono.
Vale, gracias. En relación al trabajo con los actores y las actrices, que no sé si lo habéis comentado antes, ¿vuestro sistema os gusta ensayar mucho antes en la preproducción? ¿Os gusta más la improvisación, dejar un poco la improvisación, o quizás no podéis dedicar todo el tiempo que os gustaría a tenerlos a vuestra disposición por limitaciones propias de ellos, el presupuesto? Un poco cómo es vuestro sistema de trabajo con los actores y las actrices.
Yeah, we don't really have time for rehearsals on the size movies I make, which is fine. It just means you have to learn how to work where whatever conversation would be in a rehearsal is happening in the hours on set when there's nothing to do, which just means basically working with people who you trust to get it right pretty much right away. And in fact, a couple times I've only really met the people in the movies 1 or 2 days before their first scene, just because we cast them on Skype and then they fly to New York and then they're in the movie the next day and we don't really get a chance to meet. But generally these are people who are much more experienced than me, who've been on movie sets or TV sets for decades. So the only thing I really do with actors is just assume that they're right, because if they weren't, I wouldn't be a fan of theirs and I wouldn't have admired them without knowing why for years. And I've always been proven correct about that. They are always right, and that there is always a reason that they're where they are in their lives, and there's a reason that I've responded to their work, because they know what they're doing. And therefore, the only thing I really do is ask them a lot of questions and then eventually just stop asking questions and get out of the way and assume that whatever they do will be exciting to me because I'm a fan of theirs. And I'm generally completely surprised and really glad that I didn't force them to do something that was my idea, because their idea is better, because they're an actor and I'm not.
Ensayamos mucho. No ensagem gaire. És a dir, com a molt estones, durant les pauses en el plató, intentem llegir algun diàleg o així, però en realitat jo confio en els actors a la primera. Fins i tot en 2 casos m'ha passat de conèixer la persona quan ja estava allà, i perquè ja els contactem per Skype o així, però parteixo de la idea que estaran bé perquè els admiro i els hi tinc un respecte professional, i aquest és el motiu de que realment esperi que ho facin tan bé com em sembla que ho fan, no? I pregunto molt i tot, però en definitiva el que em sorprèn és que aquelles persones acabin seguint una idea meva quan sé que ells en tenen també de molt vàlides.
I have a question, like, do you, at the beginning of the day or before doing the scene, the blocking, do you rehearse a lot there? And then before rolling the camera, do you rehearse? And then do you do a lot of takes? Because on 16 on this budget, I mean, I'm sure you're not able to do many takes. But then you see the performance, it's like, how the fuck?
Yeah, well, we never know. There's just not time to really make people rehearse. And as I've sort of learned from asking questions of actors, they would rather not show off what they're going to do. It's not theater. They don't have to figure it out. The whole spontaneity of it can be captured if they do it right the first time. And from what I've found, people would rather the first time be when everyone else is ready. So they've never really needed rehearsal. It's always just getting on the same page and them knowing what I am looking for and then knowing what I'm looking to them for. And then, we never do more than 5 or 6 takes of anything really, unless it's exceptionally complicated. But I would like to get to a point where there's portions of a day or perhaps entire days that are technically filming days, but where no filming takes place and we just rehearse. That's kind of the goal. But so far it's just been, look, movies are slow. Everyone's going to take 3 or 4 hours to get ready. Let's just use all of that time to just sit and talk. And then by the time we're up and running, I'm sort of finished. And then you're just actually doing what you came to do. And I'm only stepping in to adjust tiny things, but basically my work is done. But no, I've never seen a rehearsal or a performance of a scene without a camera being rolling.
Wow. But even the blocking, or do you tell?
Well, the blocking is very, simple. But
Yeah.
we'll block it out. Walk through the room and say, then you go here, and then you go here. And then,
do they suggest, or
yeah, they're always
try it?
free to suggest, especially in the handheld work and like listen up, fill up. They're always free to say, I think I'd rather go over here than go over there. And then everyone's watching to say, okay, yeah, if that's what you want, we'll make that happen. And then for some reason, that's part of their performance. And then you realize that's because there's a prop over there that they're planning on touching or picking up or leaning on.
And Sean goes crazy because they don't know what they're going to do.
Well, because he's watched the blocking, so he knows what to
he
do.
knows,
So he's paying attention. But yeah, it's just kind of letting them feel like their ideas are welcome. Because if most actors are doing a huge movie, a TV show, or a play, they can't say anything like that. They can't just say, as the second most important person in this scene, can I just suggest that we change what we're talking about? But on set for us, anybody can say that. The gaffer can say, guys, can I just say if it would be easier for me to not shoot that way? And then the actors go, okay, yeah, if it's tough for you to light that side of the room, we'll stay over here. And I welcome everybody asking those questions, because generally they just make the whole thing feel more collaborative.
La pregunta és si assaja molt Àlex amb els seus actors i actrius, i donat que treballa amb 16 tampoc deu poder fer moltes tomes, és a dir, i a la vegada quan veus el resultat final dius carai que bé que li surt. És a dir que ell diu que en realitat no li dona la sensació de que ho necessiti tant, no assaja molt, i que a més creu que aquesta espontaneïtat de que ells el treball el facin, és a dir, seient i parlant mentre estan esperant que es mogui el material, o per exemple, ell seu i parla amb ells i quan estan en el plató realment allò rodant, ell pràcticament només ha de tocar alguns petits detalls i que normalment se'n surten i màxim són 5 o 6 preses si és que hi ha alguna cosa complicada. Pel que fa a la resta, respecte a consultar les posicions, etc. Carlos li pregunta si Sean Williams es torna boig, el director de fotografia, perquè si li canvia moltes coses, i ell diu que en realitat els actors amb els que treballa, si treballen en televisió o en teatre, no poden ficar-hi cullerada i que ell rep molt bé tots els comentaris de tota la gent que participen, perquè normalment són comentaris en el sentit de millorar el funcionament del rodatge i la possibilitat.
Carlos?
Ho faig en català i li tradueixes amb ell, potser serà més ràpid, no? Sí. Ho dic, bueno, sí, vale. Sí, perquè sí, ho vas dient. Sí, normalment jo assajo molt, vull dir que almenys intento assajar 2 setmanes, sempre una mica per desenvolupar el que volem fer, també perquè molts cops m'agrada que els propis actors es facin els seus personatges seus, no? I... Perdona, no sé, és millor fer-ho en anglès. No sé, és que se'm fa raro parlar-li en anglès.
I'll have you explain this to me later.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
It's okay, but it's just that, I can go switching.
Sí, vaig parlant, tu pots traduir... Sí, igual. Okay, I'll do it in English, sorry. Està entès l'anglès o no? Doncs en català. Després t'ho explico. I tell you later. I talk you now en català. Però sí que assajo molt. Per mi les 2 setmanes d'assaig són molt importants. No sempre tens el temps, però per mi hi ha un treball de preparació, de trobar el personatge amb ells, i suposo també per treballar amb amics i de fer una mica de memòria conjunta. No assajo tant el guió com una mica plantejar pel tipus de pel·lícula que faig, en el que tenen que veure molt amb un pas del temps i amb unes relacions, construir aquesta relació bé perquè després tinguin cadascú clar i puguin aportar d'una manera que jo no els tingui que dirigir gairebé quan arriben en set. I llavors el que sí que depèn una mica de pel·lícula a pel·lícula, no? Va ser un cas amb 10.000, va ser un altre cas a Londres on no tenien tant temps per rodar, llavors l'assaig previ sí que va ser molt important, no tant de dir ara farem això o fareu allò altre, sinó una mica, per mi la pregunta és de què va l'escena, què està passant a l'escena. I llavors deixar amb ells en aquesta pregunta, no respondre-hi, sempre intentar fer moltes més preguntes que donar direccions concretes i qüestionar-los constantment i sempre deixar-los fer una mica. Llavors al set, per exemple, clar, amb aquesta última pel·lícula que estem fent, sempre assagem, com anem rodant cada cap de setmana, anem rodant un temps, assagem un dia 2 hores, és casa meva, venen assagen, i llavors rodem tot un dia. I clar, potser fem un plano, que és tota l'escena, però clar, com rodem un equip molt petit, potser fem 28 cops la toma, i llavors clar, hi ha una corba per mi entre quan comences a assajar, que les primeres tomes són bones, després hi ha un moment que et perds, però després una altra mica el que ha de fer moltes tomes, hi ha un moment que l'actor s'oblida també que està actuant, llavors busques una mica les esquerdes. A mi el que em passa és sobretot que intento sorprendre'm, i llavors suposo que a partir de fer moltes i moltes tomes busco una mica aquesta sorpresa.
Okay, I'll allow him to explain it to you later.
Perfect.
Because we only have 5 minutes. I would like to stay longer here, but we only have 5 minutes more. Is there any other question that anyone wants to raise, or do I throw a last question? Myself, okay, I'll throw a question. What about the new platforms, the new players like Amazon, Netflix, HBO? Do you think, from your perspective, that I'm sure it's going to be quite different, because it's quite different, the penetration of those platforms here in Europe than in US. Will this interfere in your future? Do you think they are useful for you to produce, to make new movies? Would that give you a different approach on how to direct? Have you had any experience on approaching them or being approached by them?
Well, I don't know what their presence is like in the rest of the world. So I don't know if they're as common everywhere else as they are in America as ways of consuming movies and TV.
Well, here it was all piracy probably until probably like 3 years ago.
More or
Like
less.
there was
Until
like a
Netflix
platform.
landed, yeah.
There's a very nice platform here. It's called Filmin, but they have little subscriptors. I'm a subscriptor of it because I feel it's important. But sadly, most of the people were not used to pay for it. But now Netflix came and HBO came and Movistar. You know, the platforms, TV per pay kind. So it's probably like we can say like a couple of years, 3 years that
it's
everything
still
has
landing,
kicked off.
really.
Before there was nothing.
It's a growing market, really.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, certainly people who are a lot smarter than me and care a lot more about business have said much more intelligent things. The thing that I'm the most interested in, and this is something that America has just now caught up with, that other countries have had one form or another, is like like subscription services for seeing movies in the theater. I remember growing up, everyone always said, in France, you just pay a flat rate and you can just go see as many movies as you want. And now America has this thing called Movie Pass, which I believe in very strongly. $10 a month, you can go see a movie every single day for no extra money. I'm more interested in things like that continue to push people into the theater. I don't know. I mean, is there a similar subscription thing here for cinemas that sort of...
No, I think Movie Pass wants to land
They want to come
in
here?
whole Europe, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
but this doesn't have, there's no thing like in France where there's like a monthly book.
no, because
Yeah, that always seemed like the dream, and now we have it. So I'm very happy about that. I'm much happier about that than I am about Netflix.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like I feel like you couldn't tell a lot even in Los Angeles, like from the years I arrived until I left there, how people were going less to the theaters. Just you could see it, how when Netflix kicked in and everything, and it's really sad. It will never be the same experience. And just hopefully we get more cinemas.
Sí, la pregunta era com veuen les noves plataformes d'Amazon, Netflix o HBO i si creuen que són útils per ells. I Àlex contestava que en realitat no sap com és el present, el moment, és a dir, no sap com passa, com està la situació d'aquestes plataformes a la resta del món. Carlos li deia que fins fa 3 anys era tot pirateria i enxufar-se de qualsevol manera i que era subscriptor de Filmin. I aleshores, gràcies, que naturalment és un mercat creixent però que Àlex deia que està molt més interessat en maneres de portar la gent al cinema amb subscripcions per anar al teatre o abonaments, de manera que puguis veure. I Carlos deia que també que al llarg dels anys en què va estar a Los Angeles va poder percebre com cada vegada era menys gent la que assistia al cinema a veure les pel·lícules.
Okay, we've been allowed to continue for 10-15 minutes more.
I think people are probably ready to go. It's been a long time sitting here. I can't be the only one that wants to go to the bathroom. And that was a great last question.
Yeah, I think so. If no one has any other question, then we'll finish it here. Okay, so I want to thank you, Americana Film Festival, for bringing us the opportunity to listen to those two brilliant directors here, for Esgaetu holding the session, and all of you for coming and for your interesting questions, and many, of course, to Alex and Carlos for opening their minds and their hearts here and explaining so many interesting things. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
En principi és que és un fil que crec que es desenganxa aquí. És que cada any estan diferents, sí. Sí, sí, sí. Jo ells no sé com marxaran, si no jo m'acabaran... Això, el rodat. Sí. Bueno, és que no sé si no marxen... Si no han marxat el Xavi i la Marta, que no es van cap allà. O sigui, la Marta igual va a fer, no sé. Clar, si el Xavi més amb algun transport, que estava parlant amb el Ladio, si van en taxi, se queden dolents. Això estaria bé.
Nosotros aquí, ¿no?
Sí, això així, i això així. Tu saps on està el fons del relat?
Sí, aquí al camí.
Vale, perfecte, pues ja està. Doncs moltes gràcies,
Estem?
Ja, sí, ja estem. Aquí ja, bueno, ara que heu de recollir això ja està.
Lo de la grabació ja li diria el Tom.
Vale.
I ja te la passarà.
Vale, perfecte. Sí.
Mandarà un correu i ja...
Vale. Molt bé, doncs moltes gràcies. Merci.
Te lo miro.
Bueno, tenim les coses allà, no entenem igual,
Pau,
Sí, dime.
¿tienes un destornillador de esos de estrella pequeñito?
Sí, ya lo sé que hay algún micro que está un poco
Sí.
suelto.
¿Recojo pantalla? ¿Dejó la luz encendida? Dejo las luces encendidas.